February 2026 is not just another month, it's a turning point in history with a massive solar eclipse in Aquarius and a rare Saturn-Neptune conjunction. The universe is hitting the reset button. Are you ready for the shift? If you have felt a sense of urgency building, you are not imagining it. We begin with a dramatic full moon in Leo on February 1st, highlighting personal visibility. But that is just the warm-up. This month is dominated by fated energy. We are collectively moving from the old world into the new, and the astrology of February is the bridge that takes us there. The headline event arrives on February 17th with a solar eclipse at 28 degrees in Aquarius. This is not just a new moon, it's a portal because this eclipse forms a tense square to Uranus, which stations direct this month. It is designed to shock your system into alignment. Expect sudden breakthroughs, technological shifts, and a complete rewiring of your future goals. The energy here is disruptive but innovative. If you have been stuck in a stagnant cycle, this eclipse will break the lock. But just days before the eclipse, around February 13th, we experience a rare Saturn-Neptune conjunction in early Aries. This is a transit that dissolves the boundaries between reality and dreams. Old structures that no longer serve you will simply melt away, clearing the path for you to pioneer a completely new spiritual identity. This cosmic stage is set for a revolution. However, this energy affects every zodiac sign differently, triggering specific houses in your chart. I'm going to break down exactly where these massive shifts land for you. Let's dive into the predictions for each sign, starting right now. Alright, Aries, let's talk about your February sky, because this month has definitely some movement to it. It's not quiet, but it's not chaotic either. It's one of those months where things start to shift in meaningful ways, especially around money, creativity, and your long-term direction. We start right at the beginning of the month on February 1st with the full moon in Leo. This lights up your 5th house, so themes around creativity, romance, children, pregnancy, or entrepreneurial projects come into focus. Something that has set in motion about 6 months ago is now reaching a point of fulfillment or visibility. For some of you, this could be a creative project finally getting attention. For others, it could be a relationship or family matter becoming clearer. It's a really inspiring full moon, especially if you work creatively or independently, and whatever opens up here tends to unfold over the next few months rather than all at once. Then, on February 4th, Uranus stations direct in your money sector. This is where things start to feel clearer financially. If you're being unsure about income, earnings, or the direction you are going with money, this is where the fog lifts. Uranus can bring sudden changes, but in this case, it's more about realizing which direction actually makes sense for you moving forward. Around the 4th, 5th, and 6th, Mercury squares Uranus, and this brings surprise news or information. This often comes through other people, friends, network, or professional connections. A conversation, message, or idea could shift something financially or open a door you can't expect. It's a fast-moving energy, and while it may feel sudden, it generally works in your favor, especially if you are open to new ways of doing things. By February 7th, Mercury moves into Pisces and into your 12th house, and the peace changes. This is where things go quieter on the outside, but much richer on the inside. You may feel drawn to work behind the scenes, focus on creative projects, writing, or simply spending more time alone to think and plan. This is also strongly connected to international teams, online income, and working with people or companies at a distance. Pay attention to your dreams and intuitive hits around this time because they can be surprisingly informative. At the same time, between February 7th and 9th, Venus squares Uranus, echoing that earlier surprise energy, but now more clearly tied to money, values, and relationships. This can show up as a sudden financial opportunity, a new client, or an unexpected shift in partnership. For some, it's a pleasant surprise. For others, it's a wake-up call that something needs to change. Either way, it's part of an ongoing shift rather than a random event. Around February 11th and 12th, Mercury aligns with the North Node. And this brings information or conversations that feel faded somehow. You might hear news connected to travel, learning, writing, or online work, and that ends up shaping your path in a bigger way over time. Even if it feels small in the moment, it tends to matter later. One of the most important shifts of the month happens around February 13th, when Saturn enters Aries. This is the beginning of a much longer cycle for you, lasting a few years. You may start to feel more serious about your goals, your identity, and the direction you are heading. There's less interest in shortcuts and more focus on building something solid and lasting. It's not heavy in a bad way, but it does ask for patience and commitment. Mid-month, around the 15th and 16th, the Saturn squares Uranus, bringing another unexpected development often tied to money or creative projects. This could feel like a push to take a risk or rethink how you are using your talents. Again, it's surprising, but it opens new options. Then around 16th and 17th, Mercury forms a supportive connection with Jupiter, bringing good news or a helpful insight. Sometimes this shows up as an opportunity related to travel, property, learning, or spiritual growth. Other times, it's just a feeling of clarity or resonance that you are on the right track. On February 17th, we have a solar eclipse in Aquarius, and this is a big one. It affects your friendships, networks, long-term goals, and the way you move toward your future. Some connections may fade, others become more important, and your vision for what you want next starts to change. This eclipse sets things in motion that unfold over the next 6 months or more. So pay attention to who and what is coming into focus around this time. As we move toward 20th, Saturn and Neptune come together, making the beginning of a new chapter. For you, this is about turning dreams into something real. It's learning how to balance vision with practicality and making choices that support the long game rather than quick wins. Around February 22nd, Venus and Jupiter form a really supportive connection, bringing a sense of ease, optimism, and sometimes financial or emotional rewards. This can be a beautiful moment for money matters, home or property themes, or opportunities connected to work done quietly or at a distance. Finally, as the month closes, between February 25th and 28th, Mars squares Uranus, bringing a decisive moment. You may feel ready to cut ties with an outdated income source, change how you are earning money, or step away from a situation that no longer works. Try not to act impulsively, but do listen to what's clearly not aligned anymore. Mercury also turns retrograde on the 26th, slowing things down and inviting review. This is a time to refine creative projects, revisit old ideas, and reconnect with past opportunity, especially related to travel or international work. Overall, February, it's not about rushing toward Aries. It's about realignment, preparation, and choosing a direction that actually supports the future you are building. All right, Taurus, let's talk about February because this month matters. There is a strong focus on your career, your direction, and the way you're showing up in the world. And this didn't start out of nowhere. The pressure and momentum really began building in the second half of January, and February continues that story in a very real way. As the month opens, there's still a powerful concentration of energy at the top of your chart. This keeps your attention on work, reputation, long-term goals, and how others see you. You might be thinking about a lot about where you are headed professionally, whether your current role still fits, or what kind of recognition you want moving forward. For many of you, something is really shifting, and February is where it becomes more visible. On February 1st, we have a full moon in Leo, lighting up your home and family sector. This can bring clarity or completion around where you live, a family situation, or a decision tied to home and property. Some of you may be thinking about moving, restructuring your living situation, or finally acknowledging how much your career is influencing your private life. This full moon makes it clear that work and home are deeply connected right now. Then, on February 4th, Uranus stations directly in your sign. This is subtle but important. Uranus has been reshaping your identity and sense of stability for years. And as it turns direct, things begin to move forward again. The days around 3rd, 4th, 5th, maybe 6th, but let's say 5th, can feel edgy or emotionally charged. So it's important not to react impulsively. But big realizations may surface, but the key is staying grounded rather than forcing immediate action. Around February 5th, Mercury squares Uranus, bringing unexpected news or information. This could involve work, career decisions, authority figures, or even a family matter. For some of you, this news is surprising in a good way, an opportunity, an offer, or a shift in perspective that helps to see you future more clearly. It may arrive suddenly, but it's part of a bigger picture already folding up. On February 6th, Mercury moves into Pisces, activating your 11th house of goals, networks, and long-term gains. This is a strong period for career growth through connections, conversations, and strategic networking. Emails, meetings, and online interactions become especially important, and some of them may feel oddly timed or meaningful. Between February 7th and 9th, Venus squares Uranus, bringing another surprise, this time more clearly tied to career recognition or money. This can look like unexpected prize, a professional win, or a sudden shift that benefits you financially. If an opportunity shows up that helps you level up, it's worth paying attention. Around February 10th, Venus moves into a very supportive position for you, boosting career rewards, income, and social enjoyment. This is a favorable window for money coming in through work, business, commissions, or professional connections. It's also a lighter, more enjoyable phase socially, where support from friends or colleagues feels more available. On February 11th and 12th, Mercury aligns with the North Node, bringing news or conversations that have long-term significance. Even if it doesn't feel dramatic in the moment, something said or offered here can quietly shape your future direction. Around February 13th or 14th, Saturn shifts into your 12th house, beginning a longer cycle focused on rest, boundaries, and inner clarity. This is the start of a period where slowing down, projecting your energy, and doing behind the scenes work becomes essential. It's less about pushing and more about preparing. Now, mid-month, around February 15th and 17th, the Sun squares Uranus, triggering another unexpected turn. It can involve career, finances, or family matters, and while it may feel sudden, it pushes you closer to a more authentic path. Something that no longer fits becomes impossible to ignore. Around February 16th and 17th, Mercury connects with Jupiter, bringing reassurance, good news, or helpful information. If you've been waiting for clarity or confirmation, this is one of the most supportive moments of the month. On February 17th, the solar eclipse highlights your career and long-term goals. This marks a turning point in your professional life. One chapter may be closing while another quietly begins. The effects of the eclipse unfold over months, not days, but it sets an important new direction in motion. Around February 22nd and 23rd, Venus and Jupiter form a supportive connection, creating one of the most positive windows of the month. This can bring financial ease, professional rewards, or simply a sense of optimism and forward momentum. As the month closes between February 25th and 28th, Mars squares Uranus, pushing you through decisive change. You may feel ready to break away from something that's been limiting you, especially in career or long-term goals. Even if you don't act immediately, you will know exactly what needs to shift. Mercury turns retrograde on February 26th, encouraging review rather than rushed decisions. Old ideas, contacts, or goals may return for consideration. Overall, February is a month of movement and realignment for you. It's about clarity, courage, and setting the stage for long-term success, even if the changes don't all happen at once. All right, Gemini, let's talk about February because this month it's anything but quiet. There's a lot of movement visibly and destiny energy around you, especially when it comes to communication, career, and the bigger path you are stepping into. We start on February 1st with a full moon in Leo, activating your third house. This brings attention to writing, speaking, content creation, marketing, learning, teaching, short trips, and your daily flow. Something you planned about 6 months ago starts to show results now. A message lands, a post gets traction, a project finally feels seen. You may also notice your schedule getting busier, more conversations, more meetings, more movement overall. This full moon also feels like a preview of a bigger Leo storylines later this year. So pay attention to what's speaking now because it can grow into something more significant over time. Then we move into February 3rd and 4th, and the energy intensifies as Uranus stations direct. Stations days are loud, and for you, this isn't subtle. Uranus has been working behind the scenes in your chart for years, bringing sudden insights, mindset shifts, and unexpected opportunities, especially tied to money, made through digital work, foreign connections, or things happening quietly in the background. From February 4th through late April, you start to feel clearer about your direction. Even if the path isn't conventional, your confidence in it grows. Around February 5th, Mercury squares Uranus, and this is the first real surprise moment. Expect unexpected news. An email, message, invitation, or conversation that changes your perspective quickly. Because Mercury rules you, this one lands strongly. The topic often connects to travel, education, publishing, legal matters, mentors, or international opportunities. If something shows up that feels exciting and slightly scary, this is very much a say yes, then adjust kind of energy. By February 6th, Mercury moves into Pisces and into your career zone. And this becomes one of the main themes of the month. This puts your voice into the spotlight. Interviews, announcements, negotiations, speeches, and leadership conversations come into focus. You're being heard. Just remember that Mercury in Pisces is a big picture and visionary, but not always detail orientated. It's great for connection and visibility, but double check the fine print, especially with contracts. Between February 7th and 9th, Venus squares Uranus, bringing another twist. This often builds on whatever started earlier in the week, but now it shows up more clearly in your work or public life. A sudden opportunity, a change in direction, or a surprising offer can appear. Venus usually brings benefits even if the timing feels chaotic at first. On February 10th, Venus moves into your career and public image sector, and this is a genuine glow up. People notice you more. Your work is appreciated. This is a great transit for building a brand, attracting clients, improving your reputation, and feeling more valued for what you do. Around February 11th and 12th, Mercury meets the North Node, and this is a destiny moment for career and visibility. News, conversations, or connections here feel important, like they are pointing you toward the right connection. Be mindful of how you communicate. Clarity matters, but trust that something meaningful is unfolding. By February 13th or 14th, Saturn changes signs, shifting your focus toward long-term goals and the people you build with. Your social world may mature. You become more selective about who gets access to your energy, and you're drawn to connections that feel stable, intentional, and aligned. Mid-month, around February 15 and 16, the sun squares Uranus, bringing another surprise. This can involve sudden news, a change in plans, travel, writing, marketing, or a schedule shift that forces a new approach. While it may feel disruptive, it opens a new lane. Around February 16th and 17th, Mercury trines Jupiter, and this is one of the best windows of the month. This is good news, opportunity, and momentum, often tied to career, money, or visibility. Your words can directly translate into growth here. On February 17th, we have a solar eclipse in Aquarius, and this is a major destiny portal for you. It activates travel, education, publishing, belief systems, and your border life direction. Something begins or ends here, but eclipses unfold over time. This can mark the start of a new chapter where your ideas reach a bigger audience, possibly even internationally. Also, on the same day, Venus meets the North Node, adding support and opportunity. This helps creatives, entrepreneurs, and anyone working digitally or across borders. On February 20th, Saturn and Neptune aligned, beginning a long term cycle where dreams meet discipline. This is about building something meaningful and sustainable, and also reshaping your social environment to match the future you are creating. 22nd, Venus trines Jupiter, bringing another wave of supportive energy. This can show up as a financial ease, career rewards, or simply feeling optimistic and aligned with where things are going. Late in the month, we hit the final push. Between February 25th and 28th, Mars squares Uranus, bringing decision energy. Something needs to move. Travel, education, publishing, or purpose-driven choices come to a head. Even if action happens later, clarity arrives now. On February 26th, Mercury turns retrograde, shifting you into review mode. Plans may adjust, conversations revised, old topics and details need refining. This isn't a stop, it's a recalibration, let's say like that. Finally, on February 28th, Mercury meets Venus, ending the month on a supportive note. A positive message, agreement, confirmation, or reassuring sign shows you that you are on the right track. Overall, Gemini, February is about momentum, career visibility, money, opportunities, communication growth, and a destiny doorway around travel and education. Say yes to what aligns and take your time with the details. Cancer, as February begins, you are already carrying strong momentum from late January. Since around January 23rd, there has been a powerful concentration of energy in your 8th house, the space of shared money, debt, investments in inheritances, and long term financial or emotional commitments. This is not light energy. It's deep strategic and very focused on security, both emotional and financial. Many of you have been thinking seriously about money that involves other people, partners, family, banks, institutions, or long term agreements. At the same time, this house asks you to face deeper fears, attachments, and control issues. So, this period hasn't been superficial at all. That's the backdrop as February begins. Right at the start of the month, on February 1st, a full moon lights up your second house of income, values, and self worth. This brings clarity around money, what you earn, what you keep, and what you believe you deserve. Something that began around late July or early August now reaches a turning point. For some of you, this looks like receiving money or seeing results. For others, it's realizing that a source of income or a financial agreement no longer aligns, and it's time to let it go. There's also a strong connection here to property and material security. Buying, selling, or restructuring something related to home, assets, or savings can be part of this story. This full moon doesn't rush. It unfolds over the next few weeks and continues to influence decisions over the next 6 months. It's also a powerful moment for releasing unhealthy habits tied to stress, comfort, or emotional copying. Then we move into February 3rd and 4th when Uranus shifts direction in your 11th house. This marks the final chapter for a long cycle that began back in 2018. Over the past few years, your goals, friendships, and long-term plans have been unpredictable. Some connections fell away suddenly, others appeared out of nowhere. Now something settles, you become clearer about where you're headed and who you want to walk alongside. This shift can also bring sudden insight around money, especially income connected to career gains, bonuses, or support from others. It may feel abrupt, but there's relief in it. A door closes, and you're actually glad it does. Around February 5th, information arrives that changes your perspective. A message, update, or piece of news involving finances, career direction, or long-term plans comes in unexpectedly. It's surprising but not random. It fits into a larger story already unfolding. On February 6th, Mercury moves into Pisces, beginning a long transit through your ninth house that lasts until April. Your attention shifts toward meaning, purpose, education, travel, and the bigger picture of your life. You start asking deeper questions. Where am I going? Why am I doing this? What truly matters now? This is a powerful period of learning, teaching, publishing, and connecting with mentors or guides. Conversations with people from different cultures or backgrounds can open doors you didn't even realize were available. Between February 7th and 9th, Venus connects with Uranus, echoing the earlier surprise but with a softer tone. Unexpected financial benefits or opportunities may appear, often involving shared resources, family support, investments, or career-related gains. It's not something you plan for, but it works in your favor. Emotionally, this also reminds you that support can come from unexpected places. By February 10th, Venus enters Pisces and joins Mercury in your ninth house, creating one of the most supportive stretches of the month. You may feel guided, protected, or simply more optimistic. Opportunities connected to travel, education, legal matters, publishing, or spiritual growth flow more easily now. If you've been applying, asking, or waiting, this is when things start to move. Around February 11th and 12th, conversations or information take on a faded quality. You hear the right thing at the right time, meet someone significant, or receive information that you are on the right path. Around February 13th or 14th, Saturn changes signs and moves to the top of your chart, beginning a 3-year cycle focused on career and public life. This is a major turning point. You are being asked to step into responsibility, leadership, and long-term ambition. What you build now won't happen overnight, but it's meant to last. This is where you start thinking in years, not in weeks. Mid-month, around February 15th and 16th, the Sun activates Uranus again, bringing one more surprise, often tied to money, career, direction, or personal security. Something shifts quickly, pushing you to adapt. Between February 16th and 17th, encouraging news arrives. This can involve recognition, finances, or an opportunity that validates the effort you've been putting in. Even if details are still forming, the signal is positive. On February 17th, a powerful solar eclipse in Aquarius activates your 8th house once again. This opens a major turning point around shared resources, long-term financial commitments, and deep personal transformation. The eclipse doesn't act instantly, it opens doors. Over the coming months, you may restructure finances, finalize agreements, receive support, or step into a new level of trust and empowerment. This is also about reclaiming your power and releasing fear around dependence or loss. Around February 20th, a long-term vision begins to form. It's subtle but important. You are aligning dreams with reality and laying the foundation of something meaningful in your professional life. As the month closes between February 25th and 28th, decisions crystallize. You may not act immediately, but you know which directions you are choosing. As the February ends, a reassuring conversation or piece of news reminds you that you are supported, even if the path ahead is still unfolding. Leo, you enter February already feeling stretched, not because you don't know how to show up for others, but because for a while now, so much of your energy has gone into relationships, partnerships, clients, the public, expectations, and obligations. There's been a constant pull towards other people's needs, other people's agendas, and by the time February begins, that weight is noticeable. You feel it in your body, in your patience, and how much space you still have for yourself. Right at the start of the month, the full moon rises in your sign, and this is not a small one. This is a moment of illumination around identity. Something you set in motion last summer reaches a peak now. For some of you, this is recognition, clarity, or a sense of arrival. For others, it's the realization that a version of you has run its course. You are standing at the top of a cycle, seeing clarity, what works, what doesn't, and what you are no longer willing to carry. And this moment matters because it quietly sets the tone for much bigger shifts that will unfold later in the year. As the days move forward into January 3rd and 4th, Uranus shifts direction in your career sector, and this is significant. You've been living with unpredictable, start, disruptive energy in your professional life since 2018. Sudden changes, unexpected turns, radical reinventations, moments where stability felt impossible to fold into. Now, something clicks. Not everything resolves instantly, but the direction becomes clearer. You know what you are moving toward, and just as importantly, what you've done tolerating. There can be surprises here, announcements, changes, or realizations connected to your public role, your work, or your reputation. But even if they feel abrupt, they push you closer to alignment. Around February 5th, information lands that forces a conversation. This may come through a partner, a client, or someone you are closely tied to. It can involve commitments, money, shared responsibilities, or the status of a relationship. It's one of those moments where something that's been under the surface suddenly has to be named. Then, as Mercury moves into Pisces on February 6th, your attention turns inward and deeper. Financial matters that involve other people take center stage. Shared money, debts, investments, taxes, inheritances, or long-term financial agreements need reviewing. This isn't about rushing decisions. It's about understanding the full picture, reading between the lines, and trusting your intuition while still checking the facts. As we move into February 7th and 8th, Venus activates the same area of tension, beginning another surprise, but this one carries a softer tone. Conflict shifts, a relationship dynamic changes, or an opportunity appears unexpectedly. It may involve your work, your public image, or your online presence. There's moment here, and while it's not entirely predictable, it tends to work in your favor if you don't force control. By February 10th, the energy deepens further as Venus joins Mercury in your 8th house. This is where protections comes in. You are supported when it comes to financial restructuring, negotiations, or navigating sensitive emotional terrain. Help can come from unexpected places. For some Leo, this is where money matters stabilize. For others is where emotional bonds intensify, becoming more honest and more real. Around February 11th and 12th, conversations or information feel faded. You may receive news about finances, legal matters, or shared resources that clarifies your next steps. Even if everything isn't finalized yet, the direction becomes unmistakable. Then, mid-month brings a major shift. Around February 14th, Saturn enters Aries, beginning a 3-year chapter focused on meaning, truth, and long-term direction. This is not light energy. You are being asked to take your beliefs, your knowledge, and your life seriously. For the next few years, you'll build something lasting through education, publishing, teaching, travel, or work connected to foreign lands or global structures. This is where you stop the debating and start committing. Just after this, around February 15th and 16th, tension peaks again as the sun activates Uranus. This one feels personal. Something about relationship, a partnership, or a public commitment reaches a breaking point or a turning point. For some, it's a decision to step away. For others, it's a decision to redefine boundaries. Either way, the old way no longer holds. Then comes February 17, the eclipse. And this is a big one for you. It lands in your relationship sector and opens a doorway you don't fully control. It's about destiny in partnerships. Some relationships expand and deepen, others reveal that they cannot grow any further. This isn't about drama, it's about truth. What can evolve will, what can't won't. And because this eclipse is tied to shared resources, money, and long-term commitments, finances may be part of the story too. At the same time, Venus aligns with the North Node, softening the intensity. Support appears where you need it the most. Financially, emotionally, or through the right person, showing up at the right time. Even if changes feel intense, you are not unprotected here. As we move toward the final week of February, the energy lightens briefly. Around the 22nd and 23rd, there is a sense of reward, a win, recognition, financial improvement, or a moment where things simply feel easier. This can come through work, education, travel, or connections with people from afar. It's one of those moments that reminds you why the struggle was worth it. The month closes with one last shakeup between February 25th and February 28th. As Mars makes its final activation, decisions are made, lines are drawn, something ends so something else can begin. This is not subtle, but it is necessary. And just as the month ends, a conversation or piece of news arrives that reassures you you are moving in the right direction, even if the road ahead is still unfolding. February doesn't ask you to perform. It asks you to be honest, and that changes everything. Virgo, February doesn't ease you gently. You can already feel that something is shifting, and part of that is because the early March eclipse in Virgo is already echoing backward into this month. So relationship conversations, agreements, and those where is this actually going moments feel louder and more urgent than usual. At the same time, you are coming out of a period that's been heavily focused on work, health, routines, and survival mode. Life has been asking you for real structure, real discipline, and real changes, not just good intentions. So February becomes a bridge month. You are closing one chapter while quietly laying the groundwork for what comes next. The month opens with a full moon on February 1st in Leo, activating your 12th house. This is internal, subtle energy. It shifts a light on what's been happening behind the scenes, habits you don't talk about, emotional patterns you've been avoiding, exhaustion you've been pushing through. For some of you, this is about rest, healing, solitude, or finally admitting you need space to reset. It's not always visible to others, but it's deeply revealing for you. This can also connect to closure around something emotional or even a moment of release around stress-related habits. Then on February 4th, Uranus turns direct, and this is a big pivot point. Uranus has been shaking up your ninth house since 2018. Travel, education, legal matters, publishing, belief systems, and your entire worldview. And this moment marks the final stretch of that story. From early February through late April, it's like Uranus says, let's plan this. If your life has involved unpredictable shifts around travel, foreign connections, paperwork, or major changes in how you see the world, this is where it starts to crystallize. Right after that, the first of several Uranus shocks arrives. Around February 5th, Mercury squares Uranus, bringing unexpected news or a sudden change of plans. Because Mercury rules you, this hits personally. This can involve work, health, home matters, or a professional opportunity tied to travel or foreign connections. It's not background noise. It affects your real life, and it requires quick adjustment. On February 6th, Mercury moves into Pisces and into your relationship sector. And this is important. Mercury doesn't rush through here. It's going to retrograde later in the month. So from early February onward, relationships become conversation heavy. Negotiations, clarifying terms, revising agreements, redefining dynamics is not linear. It's forward, pause, rethink, revise. That's the pattern. Around February 8th, Venus also squares Uranus, bringing a different kind of surprise. This one feels more Venusian, money, attraction, love, or a pleasant opportunity you didn't expect. For some Virgos, this shows up as a work benefit or a financial peak that drops in suddenly. For others, it's romantic. Curveball connection, someone unexpected, possibly foreign or very different from your usual type. By February 10th, Venus moves fully into Pisces, softening the relationship story. If the eclipse energy has made things feel heavy or pressured, this helps. It doesn't erase the test, but it brings warmth, calm, and possibility of repair. From mid-February into early March, relationships feel more open and more workable. Around February 11th and 12th, Mercury aligns with the North Node, creating a fated conversation window. News lands, a decision is discussed, something becomes real in your mind, even if it's not finalized yet. This can be engagement energy, contract energy, or simply the moment where you realize this relationship storyline can be avoided anymore. Mid-month, around February 13th to 14th, Saturn shifts into Aries, changing the long-term landscape. Saturn enters your 8th house, turning your attention towards shared finances, debt, taxes, investments, and deeper trust issues. Over the next few years, you get serious about money that isn't just paycheck money. This is about strategy, restructuring, and building stability through maturity and planning. Then between February 13th and 16th, the Sun squares Uranus, bringing another visible shift. Something that's been brewing suddenly shows itself. Travel, plans change, work directions, pivots, or a professional situation tied to foreign or long-distance matters requires a fast decision. One of the brighter moments arrives around February 16th and 17th when Mercury trines Jupiter. This is generally supportive news, a helpful conversation, or recommendation, an opportunity through friends or networks. Someone opens a door for you. This is where your community becomes an advantage. On February 17th, the solar eclipse in Aquarius lands in your work, health, and routine sector, where still tying into the relationships axis. This is a major pivot. It can shift your job path, your daily structure, or your approach to health. For some, it's a moment of breaking an unhealthy pattern or addiction. Remember, eclipses unfold over months. This is the beginning of a longer story, not an instant result. Around February 20th, Saturn and Neptune begins a new cycle, planting seeds for the next 3 years. For you, this is about building more stable systems around money, intimacy, and trust, and doing so in a grounded, realistic way. Then one of the nicest windows of the month appears around February 22nd when Venus trines Jupiter. This brings ease, support, and that things are finally feeling. Love feels lighter, friendships support you, and opportunities come through people, shared goals, and long-term plans. The final push arrives between February 25th and 28th when Mars squares Uranus. This is the decisive moment. Mars doesn't hesitate. You are pushed to choose about work, relationships, travel, or what you are no longer willing to tolerate. It can be bold, surprising, and outside your usual cautious Virgo style. Then on February 26th, Mercury retrograde, beginning a period of revision. Some conversations return, agreement shifts, people change their minds, including you. On February 28th, Mercury meets Venus, closing the month on a softer note. A constructive conversation, good news from a partner, or supportive agreement helps everything land more gently than you expected. February is intense for you, Virgo, but it's also clarifying. You are not just reacting anymore. You are choosing. Libra, as February opens, you are coming out of a period that's been very loud in your 5th house of romance, dating, creativity, passion projects, and for some of you, children or fertility themes as well. That intensity really built after January 23rd, and it may have left all-consuming at times. The good news is that as February unfolds, the pressure starts to ease. The sky shifts and what felt overwhelming begins to lose. We begin the month with a full moon on February 1st in Leo, lighting up your social world, friends, communities, networks, and long-term goals. This can bring a payoff connected to something you started back late in July or early August. A collaboration clicks, a group becomes solid, or a dream feels more real. For more of you, though, this full moon is about clarity through release. Realizing you've grown a certain social cycle or role. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It's more that quiet inner knowing that it's time to move on. On February 4th, Uranus turns direct, and this is an important turning point. Since 2018, Uranus has been stirring up your 8th house, shared finances, debt, loans, settlements, inheritances, and power dynamics around money. It's been unpredictable, sometimes stressful, sometimes liberating. When Uranus stations direct, something starts moving forward again. Between early February and late April, you begin to see what this long chapter has really meant to change in how you handle risk, trust, and financial. Right after that, around February 5th, Mercury squares Uranus, and this is the first real shock moment. Information comes in suddenly. A conversation shifts everything. This can involve romance, a creative project, a child, or financial matters tied to someone else's resources, a bill, a payment, a rank decision, or a necessary conversation about money. It's surprising, and it pushes you to adjust quickly. On February 6th, Mercury moves into Pisces, shifting your focus to work, routines, health, and daily responsibilities. Mercury stays here longer than usual, so February becomes a month of adjusting systems. You try something, then revise it. You move forward, then tweak. This can involve work schedules, contracts, health plans, or productivity methods. The key is flexibility. Nothing is final yet. Around February 7th and 8th, Venus squares Uranus, bringing a softer but emotional impact surprise. This can be an unexpected opportunity at work, a sudden improvement in a situation that felt stuck, or a positive turn in a romantic or creative storyline. Often this comes through another person, a colleague, a friend, or a helpful connection. By February 10th, Venus moves into Pisces, and this is one of the smoother transits of the month for you. Venus here helps your daily life feel easier, better interaction at work, more motivation to care for your body, and routines that feel supportive instead of draining. If you've been burnout, this is where you start rebuilding in a gentler, more sustainable way. Mid-month begins a bigger structural shift. Around February 13th, 14th, Saturn changes signs, bringing a new 3-year chapter in your relationship axis. If you are partnered, this is where commitment, boundaries, and long-term planning become real topics. If you're a signal, Saturn here can bring serious karmic connections, less fantasy, more substance. Relationships are being tested for durability. Around February 15th, 16th, the suns square Uranus, bringing another wake-up moment. This can show up through romance, children, creative risks, or money decisions involving another person. It can also be a sudden opportunity or recognition that comes from an unexpected place. February keeps nudging you out of autopilot. Then we reach a bigger window around February 16th, 17th, when Mercury trines Jupiter. This is generally good news energy. A work opportunity opens, a helpful yes arrives, or a conversation puts you in the right place at the right time. If sometimes been settled, this is where momentum returns. A work opportunity opens, a helpful yes arrives, or a conversation puts you in the right place at the right time. If something's been settled, this is where momentum returns. On February 17th, we have the solar eclipse in Aquarius, activating your fifth house on a much bigger timeline. This begins a new chapter around romance, creativity, passion, and self-expression. Eclipses unfold over months, not days. For some of you, this marks the start of a new romantic era. For others, it's a turning point with a child or a creative path that becomes more serious and transformative. With Pluto involved, these changes tend to stick. You don't go back to how things were. Around February 20th, Saturn and Neptune align, starting a long-term reset around relationships and commitment. This is about blending realism with vision. What only a fantasy dissolves, what only obligation dries out, but what both meaningful and grounded can grow into something lasting. One of the sweetest moments of the month arrives on February 22nd when Venus trines Jupiter. This brings ease, support, and a sense that life is finally cooperating. It can be a win at work, financial relief, or help from the right person at the right time. It's a great window to ask for what you want. The final push comes between February 25th and 28th when Mars squares Uranus. This is decisive energy. You feel pressure to choose a relationship direction, a creative move, financial boundary, or a personal limit you are done ignoring. Something has to change, and you will feel the urgency. On February 26, Mercury stations retrograde, shifting work and health matters into review mode. Plans get revised, schedules change, and details need fixing. By February 27th, the Sun meets the North nodes, marking a fated moment. Pay attention to who appears or what decision becomes unavailable. And on February 28th, Mercury meets Venus, giving the month a softer landing, good news, a helpful conversation, or a solution that makes things feel clearer again. February is a month of recalibration for you. Less about forcing outcomes, more about choosing what truly aligns and letting the rest fall away. Scorpio, February is a major month for home, family, and where you are actually headed next. You've been sitting in a rare fourth house pile up that got much louder after January 23rd when Mars entered the mix. That's brought pressure around your living situation, family dynamics, emotional roots, and the deeper connection of where you belong. As the month unfolds, that intensity slowly begins to release, but not before it pushes you toward unavoidable choices. February opens with a full moon on February 1st, lighting up the very top of your chart. This brings a moment of visibility around career and public life. For some Scorpios, this is a recognition, a win, a raise, a promotion, or an announcement. For others, it's a realization, seeing clearly what you are no longer willing to tolerate professionally. Something comes into focus and it changes how you see your role in the world. Then on February 4th, Uranus turns direct, and this is important for you because it's been working through your relationship sector since 2018. Partnerships, commitments, clients, and close one-to-one dynamics have been unpredictable for years. Sudden shifts, breakaways, surprising connections. Uranus turning direct doesn't mean one that dynamic day. It means this chapter starts moving forward again. And because Uranus is preparing to leave this area later in the spring, February can feel like the beginning of the end of an era. Less emotional whiplash, more clarity about what freedom and commitment really mean to you. Around February 5th, Mercury squares Uranus, bringing the first surprise news moment of the month. Because Mercury is still tied into your home and family zone, this often arrives through conversations about living arrangements, property, real estate decisions, or family matters that require action. It can be a sudden offer, a sudden change, or information you've been waiting on finally landing, and now you have to respond. Shortly after, Mercury moves into Pisces, shifting your mental focus for the rest of the month and beyond. From early February through mid-April, your attention moves into your 5th house. Romance, dating, children, creativity, and passion projects. This pressure shifts from home to heart. Mercury staying here for so long means ongoing conversations, decisions, and revisions around love or creativity life. And yes, later in the month, revising the past becomes part of the story. By February 8th or 9th, Venus squares Uranus, bringing another jolt, but this one can be exciting. Venus brings attraction, pleasure, and money. Uranus brings surprise. For Scorpio, this can show up as an unexpected romantic development, a creative opportunity, or a twist involving a partner that directly affects home choices. Something changes how you think about who you are building life with. On February 10th, Venus enters Pisces, and this is one of the sweetest transits you get. Venus in your 5th house makes love feel easier, warmer, more magnetic. If your partner, this can reignite chemistry and playfulness. If you're single, this is one of your strongest windows for meeting someone, and often in a way that feels oddly timed or meaningful. Creativity flows more easily too, and pleasure comes back to the picture after a heavy start of the year. Around February 11th and 12th, Mercury meets the North Node, bringing a destiny-flavored signal. A conversation, message, or idea sets a longer storyline in motion. For Scorpio, this can be romance turning serious, a creative project gaining real traction, or a child-repelled topic becoming more central. If something sparks now, it has room to grow. Mid-month, the home story demands attention again. Around February 15-16, the Sun squares Uranus, creating tension between your private world and your public responsibilities. Career needs something. Home needs something. A partner wants clarity. This is where thinking turns into action. You are forced to choose your next move instead of just weighing options. Then February 16th, 17th brings a generally supportive moment as Mercury trines Jupiter. This is a good news, helpful timings, and doors opening, often connected to travel, education, legal matters, or foreign connections. For you, it can also support romance, children, and creative growth. Things line up more easily here. On February 17th, the solar eclipse opens a major new chapter in your 4th house, and this is the big one for you. Home, family, relocation, property, and your emotional foundation are entering a new era. Eclipses unfold over months, but the message is clear. Your living situation is changing. This can mean moving, renovating, selling, buying, changing who you live with, or finally releasing a family pattern that's been draining you. With Mars involved, this it pushes actions. With Pluto in the background, it's deeply transformative. Home isn't just a place for you, it's power, safety, and identity. And that's what's evolving now. Around February 20th and 22nd, the energy softens as Venus forms a supportive connection with Jupiter. This brings a rare feeling of ease and luck. For Scorpio, this is especially good for love, creative success, joyful news involving children or family, and moments that feel blessed without needing explanation. Late in the month, intensity rise again. Between February 25th and 28th, Mars squares Uranus, making a sharp decision point. Something about home, family, or living arrangements reaches a breaking point. Urgency rises, emotions flare. If you can, avoid reaction from anger. Instead, make clean, conscious decisions rooted in clarity. On February 26th, Mercury stations retrograde in your fifth house, reopening old conversations around love, creativity, and passion. Old lovers or unfinished projects can surface. Plans may change. This is revision energy, not final answers. By February 27th, the Sun meets the North Node, creating another faded moment. Something aligns, something becomes obvious, something nudges your direction. And on February 28th, Mercury meets Venus, softening the month's end. A sweet conversation, good news, romantic reconnection, or creative win helps things land more gently than you expected. February reshapes your foundation, Scorpio. And when your foundation changes, everything else follows. And I'm very excited for the month ahead because I'm Scorpio rising. Sagittarius, February starts loud. And your third house is activated in a big way, and that's why life can feel busy, mentally overloaded, and fast moving right from the start. Since February 23rd, Mars has been fueling this era. Siblings, neighbors, short trips, paperwork, meetings, messages, writing, teaching, selling, commuting. You're either itching to move, travel, or change your immediate environment, or you are being forced to deal with logistics and people you can't ignore anymore. And just to keep this grounded and honest, heavy third house activity can sometimes correlate with a sibling going through something important. Most of the time, it's not extreme, but if you already know, there's a vulnerability. February can bring news or a turning point. Awareness is enough. The month opens with a full moon in Leo on February 1st, lighting up your ninth house. This is a big picture energy. Travel, education, visas, legal matters, publishing, spiritual decisions, something clicks. Sometimes it's not the trip itself, it's the decision. You realize where you want to go, what you want to study, or what belief system you've outgrown. If you planted a seed in late July or early August, this full moon shows you where it's heading. On February 4th, Uranus turns direct in your sixth house. This has been a long chapter for unpredictability in work, health, routines, and daily life since 2018. Saturn turns direct, doesn't fix anything overnight, but it moves the story forward. Over the next couple of months, you start choosing out an unstable area and understanding what actually needs to change so life feels more sustainable. Because of this, be mindful around February 3rd to 5th. With Mars active in your third house, impatience and directions can lead to mistakes. Drive carefully, slow down, and don't multitask recklessly. This isn't fear, it's awareness. Around February 5th, Mercury squares Uranus, bringing unexpected news. This can be a sudden change at work, a schedule disruption, a health update, a pet related issue, or a message from a sibling that shifts your plans. It's the kind of moment where you pause and go, okay, wasn't expecting that, and then you adjust. On February 6th, Mercury enters Pisces and moves into your fourth house. And this is huge because Mercury will retrograde later. It stays here until mid-April. Home becomes the main conversation. Living agreements, property, repairs, family decisions, parents, inheritance discussions, moving plans. A lot of it gets talked through and revised. If you live with a partner, this is a heavy negotiation window about where and how you live together. Between February 7th and 14th, Venus squares Uranus, bringing a softer surprise. This can be helpful news, a situation to a work issue, a payment or debt situation turning into in your favor, a health improvement, or a blessing that comes through someone local. It may feel inconvenient at first, but it works out better than expected. On February 10th, Venus enters Pisces and joins Mercury in your fourth house until March 6th. This is where home energy softens. More peace, more warmth, more desire to make your space feel good. It's a great time to decorate, negotiate living agreements, or smooth family tension. It's also supportive for property matters, showing a home, fixing issues, or making a place more inviting. Around February 11th and 12th, Mercury meets the North Node, bringing fated information about home. A message, decision, or document sets the next chapter in motion, moving family choices, property, or defining what home base means for you. Then on February 13th or 14th, Saturn shifts into Aries, easing long-standing pressure around home and emotional heaviness. Saturn moves into your fifth house, changing the focus to love, creativity, and children. Romance becomes more serious. Creative projects demand discipline, but they can actually be completed. If you have kids, this can bring maturity moments, structure, or important reality checks. Mid-month, around February 15th to 16th, the Sun squares Uranus again. This links travel and big plans with work and routines. It can look like unexpected travel for work, sudden changes in a course or legal timeline, or a schedule shift that forces you to adapt fast. Then, February 16th, 17th brings relief as Mercury trines Jupiter. This is good news around money, shared resources, property decisions, family matters, or agreement. Something complicated suddenly feels easier because the right solution appears. On February 17th, we have the solar eclipse in Aquarius in your third house. This is a major reset in your daily life, your neighborhood, commute, siblings, communication habits, and mental load. Eclipses unfold over months, not days. For you, this can mean relocation, changing neighborhoods, or restructuring your daily life so profoundly that everything shifts, even if you stay in the same place. Right after, Venus meets the North Node in your fourth house, tying the eclipse directly to home. The combination is classic move because your life is changing energy. Around February 20th, Saturn and Neptune begins a long-term cycle that reshapes love, creativity, and responsibility. Something meaningful starts, but it requires consistency. Around February 21st and 22nd, Venus trines Jupiter, bringing one of the nicest windows of the month. Home and money matters flow better. The right people show up, the right door opens. Late month requires restraint. Between February 25th and 28th, Mars squares Uranus again. Avoid rushing agreements or impulsive decisions, especially around driving, siblings, neighbors, or travel. This can force an urgent choice, but clarity matters more than speed. On February 26th, Mercury turns retrograde in your fourth house. Here, home conversations rewind. Plans change, past living situations or family matters surface for review. On February 27th, the Sun meets the North Node, amplifying destiny around home and movement. And on February 28th, Mercury meets Venus, bringing a softer landing, a workable agreement, good news, or the right conversation that smooths things out. February shapes how and where you live, dear Sagittarius. And once that shifts, everything else flows. Capricorn, February puts money front and center for you, not in a vague abundance way, but in very real practical terms. What you earn, what you spend, and what you are worth and how sustainable your income actually is. The stellium, the stellium in your second house has been building since January, especially after Mars entered on the 23rd. So you are already feeling the pressure to take finances seriously and make decisions instead of postponing them. On February 1st, the full moon lands in your 8th house, highlighting shared money, investments, debts, taxes, inheritances, and financial ties with others. Something that started around July and August reaches a turning point here. For some of you, this is about choosing a financial chapter or finally seeing the results of a past decision. It's also a moment of clarity. You see exactly what's working and what isn't when it comes to relying on outside resources versus your own earning power. On February 4th, Uranus shifts direction in your 5th house, and this can bring a sudden development connected to love, children, creativity, or a personal project. This isn't something you plan. It's more like life nudges you and says, "Pay attention." For some, it's unexpected news involving a child or a grandchild. For others, it's a creative or entrepreneurial spark that suddenly feels more alive. On February 5th, Mercury forms the first of several tense aspects to Uranus, and this usually shows up as a surprising news, a message, call, or conversation you didn't see coming. It may involve romance, a child, or a creative idea that suddenly gains attraction. Even if it catches you off guard, it doesn't look negative, more like something that forces you to respond quickly. From February 6th onward, Mercury moves into Pisces and stays there for a long time due to its upcoming retrograde. This shifts your focus toward communication, learning, writing, marketing, social media, short trips, and conversations with people in your immediate environment. Between the 6th and the 14th, Saturn is still where which can make communication feel heavier or more serious, but it's excellent for structure, building systems, outlining project, organizing ideas, and creating something solid instead of scattered. On February 8th, Venus also squares Uranus, bringing another surprise, often financially, tied to love, children, or a creative pursuit. This could be an opportunity that feels exciting but requires a quick decision. Venus tends to soften the shock, so even if it's unexpected, it may turn out to be beneficial. From February 10th until March 6th, Venus joins Mercury in Pisces, which lightens the mood. This is a good period for social connections, networking, marketing, creative expression, and enjoying your local environment more. If you work with words, visuals, or people, these help you attract attention naturally. However, between the 10th and the 14th, Saturn is still influencing this area. So new romantic beginnings may feel serious or slow, not necessarily bad, just more grounded. Around February 11th to 13th, Mercury aligns with the North Node, bringing information that feels destined. A conversation, invitation, or piece of news can open a door that shifts your direction. Because Venus is close by, this tends to carry positive tone, something that helps rather than complicates. On February 14th, Saturn leaves your third house and enters your fourth, beginning a long cycle focused on home, family, stability, and foundations. Over the next few years, this is where you are asked to build something real and lasting, whether that means moving, taking on family responsibilities, and redefining what home truly means for you. Mid-month, around February 15th to 17th, supportive energy flows through Mercury and Jupiter, suggesting good news or opportunities tied to partnership, clients, or contracts. This can involve travel, collaboration, or a professional opening that expands your reach. Then comes a major moment, the eclipse on February 17th in your second house. This is a reset around money, self-worth, or how you generate income. It's not a one-day event. It unfolds over months, but it marks a shift in how you approach financial security. Because the North Node is in your third house, changes in income may be linked to communication, online platforms, teaching, writing, or even relocation. Venus nearby adds a layer of support, suggesting growth rather than loss if you are willing to adapt. Toward the end of the month, between February 1st and 23rd, there's a lighter, more fortunate window where things flow more easily, especially around love, creativity, and financial opportunities that feel aligned rather than forced. The final days of February, especially the 25th to 28th, are more intense. Mars squares Uranus, which can bring impulsive reactions, sudden expenses, or tension involving children, romance, or money decisions. On February 26th, Mercury turns retrograde, shifting your attention back to conversations, plans, and projects that need revising rather than pushing forward. And on the 28th, Mercury meets Venus again, offering a chance to smooth things out, renegotiate, or find a better solution than the one you initially expected. Aquarius, February doesn't ease you in. It drops you straight into intensity because you are carrying a rare concentration of energy in your sign, and once Mars joined in on February 23rd, it stopped being subtle. This is personal, it's identity, it's direction, it's the version of you that has been working up until now, and suddenly not working anymore. February 1st brings a full moon in your 7th house. Relationships, commitment, clients, audience, business partnership, and the way you do one-to-one life. This is a spotlight. Something you seeded back in late July or early August reaches clarity. Sometimes it's a decision, sometimes it's closure, or sometimes it's simply seeing the truth without excuses. And because this relationship axis keeps building later in the year, this full moon can feel like a signal flare. As this area is evolving, whether you initiate it or not. Then we hit February 4th, and Uranus stations direct in your 4th house. Home, family, stability, living situations, or what home even means. Uranus has been shaking this sector since 2018. Weird twists, sudden moves, disruptions, changes in the family dynamics, and a complete rewiring of belonging. When Uranus stations is not just a day. The days around it feel louder, like the universe underlines the message. And what matters the most is this: you are entering the final stretch. Uranus is preparing to leave this area later in the spring. So early February through late April is the grand finale. You might hear dramatic language tied to this situation. The usable translation is simple. Be mindful of family stress and home volatility around February 3rd to 5th. Not panic, just awareness. The good news is Venus is still in Aquarius early month, and Venus can soften outcomes, protect timing, and open a constructive door where things could otherwise spike. That brings us to February 5th, when Mercury squares Uranus, and this is often literal. A text, an email, a call, a conversation. News arrives fast and it changes the tone. It can involve living situations, property decisions, repairs, family updates, or a sudden shift at home. It can also connect to money in the household, a surprise cost, surprise opportunity, or a sudden "we need to handle this now" moment. On February 6th, Mercury enters Pisces and moves into your 2nd house. And now the storyline becomes unmistakable: money and value. From here until mid-April, finance become a running theme. Income, pricing, budgeting, what you are buying, what you are selling, how you negotiate, how you speak about your worth. Mercury in the 2nd house is excellent for commerce, but in Pisces, Mercury can blur details, so don't sign anything important without reading it twice. Still, this is a clear money building window and it's active. In the 2nd week, February 7th through February 14th, Venus squares Uranus around February 8th. Another surprise, but it usually lands better. Venus is benefic, and even through a tense aspect, she tends to deliver something you end up liking: unexpected financial opening, a sudden improvement in timing, a door opening because someone likes you, trusts you, or wants you involved. And yes, if you're single, Venus in Aquarius boosts visibility and attraction. You are more noticeable. People respond differently to you. Then on February 10th, Venus enters Pisces and joins Mercury in your 2nd house until March 6th. This is one of the strongest combinations for money and self-worth. It can bring a smoother income flow, better pricing confidence, stronger offers, and upgrades to your presentation. As voice, style, personal brand, your "I know what I'm worth" energy. And between February 10th and 14th, Saturn is still close enough to be useful. It supports building a real structure, a plan, a system, a boundary, instead of impulse spending or chaotic earning. Around February 11th and 12th, Mercury meets the North Node. This is one of those fated conversation windows. A message can change direction. A deal, an offer, a pricing conversation, or a work-related discussion can carry long-term impact. Pay attention to what's said and pay attention to how your body reacts when it's said. This is not random chatter. Then February 13 to 14, Saturn enters Aries and your third house. This brings a longer cycle for discipline and communication, writing, teaching, marketing, content, learning, your schedule, your daily movement, and the way you see your mind. Financially, it matters because you've just done Saturn through your money sector, and now Saturn moves into a place where your skills and your message can turn into action. If you've been building quietly, this is where the structure starts producing results. In week 3, February 14th to 21st, the Sun squares Uranus around February 15th to 16th, bringing another pivot, often through relationships, clients, audience, or public-facing work. The Sun adds visibility, Uranus adds surprise, so something shifts quite quickly. A change in dynamics, a sudden update, a new demand, or an opportunity that forces you to adjust. Right after that, around February 16th to 17th, Mercury connects positively with Jupiter. This is one of the nicer windows. Good news, used to work, income, practical opportunities, arriving exactly when you need it. It can be client win, a job opening, a raise conversation, or a support from someone useful. It can also bring an old contract back into the picture because Mercury is evolving toward retrograde territory. Then the main event, the solar eclipse on February 17th in Aquarius. This is your identity portal. You haven't had that eclipses hit your sign like since 2008 2009. Eclipses don't mean everything happens that day. They mean the storyline is activated. You feel it building weeks before, and you watch it unfold for months after. This eclipse can reshape who you are and how you move through the world. And because the North Node ties into your money storyline, this identity shift is not separate from finances. It can change how you earn, what you prioritize, what you charge, what you pursue, and what you decide is worth your time. For some of you, it also flips relationship dynamics, new partners, endings, redefined commitment. For others, it's a career and visibility pivot. But the core truth is the same. You don't come out of this season as the same version of yourself. After the eclipse, February 20th, begins a bigger background shift. Saturn and Neptune starts a longer cycle. You don't feel it as one dynamic day. It's the beginning of a multi-year theme of giving structure to a dream. For Aquarius, that looks like turning ideas into system, turning inspirations into something you can build, teach, sell, publish, or scale. Then February 22nd is one of the most supportive windows of the month. Venus and Jupiter flow together and the moon supports it. That lucky mini triangle vibe. This can feel like is money moving more smoothly, a helpful person appearing, a work opportunity landing, a solution showing up, or a how did that work out so well moment. It can even connect back to home matters, identity, especially if money opens a door around housing decisions. The last week gets sharper. February 25th through 28th brings Mars squaring Uranus. Decisions can feel urgent, conflict can flare, home stress can spike. The best advice is practical. Don't do risky things at home. Avoid ladders, don't push your body, and don't turn frustration into impulsive action. This energy passes, but it's not the week to prove a point. Pisces, as we move into February, the month opens with a strong inward pull. That's a lot happening beneath the surface for you right now. And even if life looks calm on the outside, internally things are shifting the meaningful ways. This is a month about awareness, closure, and quiet recalibration rather than dynamic external moves. On February 1st, the full moon in Leo lights up your sixth house, bringing focus to your daily life, work, health, routines, and responsibilities. Something here reaches a point of clarity. You may realize what's draining you or what needs to change in order for your energy to feel sustainable. For some, this full moon brings results connected to work or a health related decision that's been forming since last summer. It's not about pushing harder, it's about adjusting how you operate day to day. As we move to the first week of the month, February 4th marks an important shift as Uranus turns direct. This planet has been stirring up unpredictability for years in the area of communication, short trips, siblings, and your immediate environment. Since 2018, many Pisces have experienced erratic news, unstable plans, or sudden changes involving neighbors or family members. As Uranus shifts directions now, it feels like the final phase is for long chapter. You may suddenly understand why certain disruptions kept happening and what they were trying to make you up to. Around February 5th, Mercury forms a tense aspect with Uranus, and this is when unexpected information tends to arrive. A message, a call, a conversation may catch you off guard, possibly connected to travel, a sibling, or change of plans. This isn't necessarily negative, but it does require flexibility. Something you thought was settled may need to be reconsidered. On February 6th, Mercury enters Pisces, and this is significant. This is significant shift for you. Your voice becomes louder in your own life. Thoughts turn personal, reflective, and emotional. You'll be communicating more, thinking more, and reworking ideas that matter deeply to you. Because Mercury stays in Pisces until mid April due to retrograde, this is not a time to rush decisions. You'll revisit conversations, rethink plans, and gain clarity gradually rather than all at once. Then on February 10th, Venus joins Mercury in Pisces, and this softens everything. Your presence becomes more magnetic, more gentle, and more attractive emotionally and energetically. This is a beautiful period for self expression, creativity, romance, and connection. People are drawn to you without effort. Financially, these can also be supportive, especially if your work involves communication, art, healing, or online platforms. Opportunities flow more easily when you stay authentic rather than strategic. Between February 10th and February 13th, Venus and Saturn overlap, helping you see relationships and choices more clearly. Even if emotions run strong, you are able to tell what's real and what's fantasy. This is a grounded window where you can trust your instincts without getting lost in illusion. February 14th, Saturn moves to Aries, beginning a longer chapter focused on money, values, and self worth. Over the upcoming years, you are being asked to take your financial life seriously, not from fear, but from maturity. This is about building stability step by step and respecting your own value. Mid month brings supportive news around February 15th to 17th as Mercury connects harmoniously with Jupiter. You may receive encouraging information connected to creativity, love, children, or a personal project. Something you've been quietly hoping for begins to show signs of growth. Then, on February 17th, the solar eclipse opens a powerful doorway for you. This eclipse activates a deeply internal space, endings, rest, healing, and spiritual insight. Something old dissolves here. A habit, a belief, or an emotional pattern that no longer serves you begins to fade. This is not loud or dramatic, but it's profound. You may feel called to step back, reflect, or let go of something you've outgrown. The effects of this eclipse unfold over the next 6 months. Around February 22nd, the energy lightens significantly. Venus aligns with Jupiter, creating one of the most supportive moments of the month. This can bring joy, financial luck, creative backgrounds, or simply a sense of an emotional ease. It's a beautiful day to say yes to opportunities, connections, or even small celebrations. The final days of the month, especially February 25th to 28th, carry urgency. Mars forms a tense aspect with Uranus, pushing you to make a decision you may have been avoiding. This could involve travel, communication, or a sudden need to change direction. It's intense, but it's also clarifying. By the time Mercury turns retrograde on February 26th, you may already sense that your mind is shifting, rethinking choices, revising plans, and seeing things for a new perspective. By the end of February, Pisces, you are not the same person who started the month. Something subtle but important has shifted inside you. And you are stepping into the next chapter with greater awareness and clarity. February is going to be intense, but it is also filled with immense potential for those ready to do the work. Remember, astrology is the map, but you are the driver. If you found value in this forecast and want to stay aligned with these cosmic shifts, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification button so you don't miss my upcoming deep dive into the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Drop a comment below. What is the one big change you are committing to this February? I read every single one. Stay focused, plan strategically, and I will see you in the next video.